Patrick was watching TV at home when, to his surprise, his house just vanished. And just like that, I'm Nick Fishes, and I want to buy your home. What you heard me. I want to buy your home, but my home's not for sale. It doesn't matter to me any condition. Any size, I'll buy your home sold. Sold, where am I going to live now? Patrick lost his home, he packed up his belongings, and happened to run into SpongeBob, and told him everything that had just happened. SpongeBob generously invited Patrick to move in with him, and so they began living together as a pair. But then unexpectedly, they saw that commercial again. 3 poor children packed up their belongings and walked out of their home. They didn't stop until they reached Krusty Krab. SpongeBob decided to use all that trash to build a home of their own. Don't forget to make a garage for our new boat. The next morning, Squidward felt incredibly happy, because last night he hadn't heard any noise from the two of them. He walked along singing a song and even happily swayed to the rhythm. When he arrived at Krusty Krab to help Mr. Krabs take out the trash, he suddenly heard a familiar sound. He turned around and discovered that the two of them had actually moved in here. No wonder he wasn't disturbed last night. He curiously asked the two why they were using trash to build a house. The two Squidward their house had already been sold, but why not use the money from selling the house to buy a new home? Oh, he hasn't paid us yet. Yeah, he said it right on the TV. I want to buy your home, but we haven't seen any money. Squidward had intended to tell them the truth. But then he thought if they weren't here, he wouldn't be disturbed every day. Wouldn't that be better? So he could only tell the two that they had been tricked. So for now, they'd have to stay here. Then he happily went off to work. The next morning, SpongeBob decided to take a shower first. Mr. Krabs suddenly caught a whiff of a foul odor. He turned around and saw SpongeBob covered in grime, emitting a terrible stench as if he just crawled out of a garbage heap. SpongeBob explained to him that he and Patrick had used Krusty Krab's trash to build a house. Upon hearing this, Mr. Krabs actually wanted them to pay a fee for using the trash, but SpongeBob didn't have any money. Mr. Krabs decided to deduct the debt from his paycheck. When it was time to get off work, Squidward was getting ready to go home and rest. Just then, SpongeBob suddenly hugged him. It turned out SpongeBob was homesick and wanted to go back and take a look, but Squidward wouldn't let him return. Why? He told SpongeBob that his house had already been bought, and by a German no less. He didn't like being disturbed. SpongeBob was very upset when he heard this. Patrick also wanted to go back and was willing to live with the new owner, but Squidward lied to him, saying a rock band was living there. To avoid further questions, Squidward immediately left Krusty Krab back home. Squidward intended to read quietly, but unexpectedly he heard a knock at the door. He peeked out the window and saw it was SpongeBob. Squidward immediately scrambled to pack his things, to try and fob SpongeBob off. He sneaked into Krusty Krab from the other side, then opened the door, muttering in a language he couldn't even understand himself. SpongeBob could only respond haphazardly, but they couldn't communicate. SpongeBob had no choice but to barge in. Just then, he heard Patrick knocking on the door. He had to ask SpongeBob to wait a moment. He then went to the rock house from the other side. After dealing with Patrick, he returned to the pineapple house. SpongeBob was still calling out to him. He could only scramble to respond. Seeing that things were about to be exposed, he had to ask SpongeBob to leave first. Finally, he quickly dealt with Patrick. But in the end, he couldn't take it anymore. That's it, I'm done. Squidward, what are you doing in the fish trap's house? You idiot, he had to tell them the truth. Now that the two knew the truth, they finally didn't have to live in the trash heap anymore.